We'll call our October board meeting to order. Thank you all for coming this evening. Can you all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're ready for our superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Good evening, everybody. We have had some technical difficulties here this afternoon, but are we on, Mr. Bennett?
I believe we're definitely on the visual. I'm going to check the audio right now. You just keep doing your thing and I'll...
Yes, sir. Well, welcome to tonight's Board of Education, everybody. We're glad you're here. It's always wonderful to see people in the crowd, but also hopefully people can see us and hear us online and this evening as well. A couple of highlights for me. Between September 15th and October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. And through the SCSD, we've had some awesome events and activities taking place to celebrate this important month for a lot of our students. So we're excited that we're experiencing that in a lot of our school districts in a very authentic way, so that's awesome. The District Calendar Committee, led by Dr. Lewis, recently met, and Ms. O'Hearn was with us as well, so we thank you. And some of you in the room were in our committee. We met to create the 24-25 and also the 25-26 school year calendars. A survey went out to all families and staff. We want to thank everyone who submitted feedback. We are pleased with how this process has gone, and we look forward to great years to come with two great calendars. Fall sports season is nearing the last part of the season, which is crazy, which is postseason. I was just over at the GAC cross-country meet this evening, and our runners are just doing an excellent job. But and then we're in the middle of homecoming. So we had West last week, St. Charles High is this week, and if it's not that, if you don't think that's exciting, tomorrow night, the Warriors go over and play the Pirates during the Pirates' homecoming for football. So that should be an exciting evening. One thing the Pirates have done differently is their parade is actually on Saturday this year, so we'll see how that goes. There's some, so tomorrow should be a fun day of lots of activities. There's a pep rally, there's class competitions, and there's tailgating for all the families to enjoy. And I thought it was pretty cool. Ben Owens, the AD at High, sent out some posts, and he invited all the Warrior parents to the tailgate. So that's kind of neat. So tomorrow night should be a great night. And the press box is going to look fantastic. Right, Mr. Shields? Great. Also, performing arts, we're looking forward to a lot of good things from them as well. So there's a lot of great bands are doing a great job in their competitions as well. They're traveling all over, so we got a lot of great things happening in the school district. As a reminder, we are bringing 4E safety training to our students in the next few weeks. The 4E safety training is not mandatory for our students, but it does go hand in hand with our safe defense system. We believe the combination of the 4E training and the safe defense system puts our staff and students in the safest, most prepared environment that we can provide for them. So we're excited about that. Just a reminder of that for parents, tomorrow is the deadline, but if there is an opt-out form in Power School, and again, I said the word Power School, so if there's some issues with that, you can call your child or children's school, and they can help you with that to make sure you get that form if you want to opt out on that training for your kids. But I can tell you, it's very important information. As we near the winter season, well, please be on the lookout for detailed information around November 1st. We'll have information regarding our inclement weather, so our snow days and our AMI days. Hopefully we won't have to talk about this before our meeting in November. I'll knock on wood for that. We will, at my superintendent comments in November, we'll talk more about AMI days, snow days, and kind of our new plan for this year. So, but we're ready for that because here comes the winter season. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but they say it's going to be a pretty active winter season. So we'll see what that looks like. And that is not a fun thing for a superintendent to hear, I can tell you that much. So tonight we have worked hard to prepare for this meeting, and tonight we'll have important discussions on the following items. Obviously, consent agenda items, we have a policy change, second reading, gifted program review. We're excited about that. It's gonna be a highlight. The ladies got here like 5 hours ago, so they're ready to go. Early, you didn't tell them what time to get here. They got here way early. Can you, please publicly apologize to? I apologize. So, and we have a homeless program review, that's gonna be exciting as well, and then also a notice of annual school election, insurance recommendations. Our friend Eric's with us tonight, so we're looking forward to that. And then policy change, first reading, and then district financial report. So we are in the midst of a very productive start to our 23-24 school year. I want to encourage all of us to continue to be safe, respectful, and responsible as we continue to work together. And I do hope we see lots of our parents and guardians out at parent-teacher conferences coming up very soon. So a lot of great things are happening. We're so proud of our staff and our students. I have the privilege, and our CO team does too, to get out in our buildings on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, awesome things are happening with our kids because of our staff and our kids. And then also our parents working together, all together, to make sure that we're reaching and teaching and empowering all of our students. So you can tell I'm very proud of what's happening in our schools. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm turning the meeting over to Dr. Lewis.
If I look like I know what's happening, this was not on the script, so I don't. I guess I'm just supposed to sit here.
You are. Good evening, board and SCSD community. We have the pleasure of honoring and recognizing Dr. Jason Seifert, a true superhero. On August 10th, 2023, while working at Central Office, Jason demonstrated courage that saved someone's life. His quick thinking and decisive action of performing CPR on an employee in need truly showcases his historic character. But what makes Jason a superhero? It's not just an extraordinary act of saving someone's life, but also the daily deeds that often go unnoticed. Every day, we encounter people who genuinely care for others at home or in the workplace. These unsung heroes may not possess superpowers or wear a cape, but their acts of kindness and compassion make them stand out in our eyes. It takes courage to put someone else's needs before your own, and Dr. Seifert has demonstrated this quality with the utmost bravery. His leadership skills were on display in that moment of crisis when he took charge and performed CPR without hesitation. He did not wait for someone to take the lead. He stepped up, took control of the situation, showing us that true leaders are not born, but also nurtured. On behalf of the City of St. Charles School District, we are honored to present Jason with this plaque in recognition of his historic act. This event will forever be remembered as it serves as a reminder that true superheroes are not found in movies and comic books, but they walk among us. Let us take inspiration from Dr. Seifert's actions and strive to be everyday superheroes in our own way. Let's cultivate courage, bravery, and leadership within ourselves so we make a difference in someone else's life. Once again, congratulations, Dr. Seifert, on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you for being an everyday superhero and reminding us the power of human kindness. You should. The plaque reads, presented to Jason T., which stands for Todd, as I like to tease him, Jason Todd Seifert, in recognition of his extraordinary bravery, courage, and unwavering determination for his actions to help save a life on the day of August 10, 2023. This plaque serves as a reminder of the immense power of compassion and the boundless potential for good within all of us. By the Board of Education, City of St. Charles School District for the school year of 2023-2024. Congratulations, sir. Picture time, Chris. I told you. Let's go. All right.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Got it?
I'm probably supposed to use a mic, but I will say this. First of all, I deeply appreciate this. I don't really like receiving awards or anything, or any action towards anything that I do, because I can tell you this. On that day, it was a team effort. There's a lot of people in this room who stepped up to the plate. I just happened to do my part, and there's other people in this room that did their part, and the best part is the person who was having the moment that day, a health crisis. I get to hug her every day and say hello to her every morning. And that's what this is all about. And I just want to say this, in this room, in our district, everywhere we're at, we have an awesome, diverse community, and we all have different thoughts, we have different views, and there's times where we're going to disagree, and there's times where we're going to agree, and there's times where we're going to have a pretty good debate. But I can tell you, I'm very proud to be the district, the superintendent of this district, and I can tell you, I get up every day, I'm not a superhero. I just get up every day to do my best for our kids and for our staff.
That's
I'm not perfect, nobody in this room is perfect, but I can tell you, our whole focus is to make sure that we keep our students and our staff safe, and on this day, we specifically got to be there for one of our staff members. And our staff, our students mean so much to me. Board of Education, thank you so much for letting me serve as a superintendent. My colleagues, you guys, I mean, we're family, so thank you. Thank you all your support, and I really appreciate this.
You should have been at the mic.
Oh, sorry,
Those were good words
sorry.
and deserved, so
Well, the
deserved.
people here got to hear the word.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 3.04 is board communication, and we have none. Item 3.05 is our audience comments.
All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
We have two cards. Brendan Kearns.
Good evening. My name is Brendan Kearns. I'm the president of the St. Charles Education Association, the exclusive bargaining organization for the teachers and nurses in the district. I just want to start out by saying that was a tremendous and great thing you did, a pleasant surprise, and just, I mean, I was really even overwhelmed seeing it and just what a great community we truly have here, and terrific work of our leadership every day, and especially on that day. To kind of give you an update on what's going on with our organization, our teachers are eagerly preparing for parent-teacher conferences to update parents and guardians on how their students are doing. We are also in our negotiations year and getting ready to begin our negotiations process. We begin our sit-downs on that this month. It's always a terrific process to go through, something that keeps our district strong, I believe, both for students' learning conditions, teachers' working conditions, administrators' working conditions. So we are looking forward to beginning that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. And Lauren Merks.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Mertz. I teach at Lincoln Elementary School, and I'm the president of our local chapter of the Missouri State Teachers Association. And I recently asked our members if they had some positive comments they'd like to share with you, and here are just a few that they would like to share with you. One said, I have supportive administrators this year, and they really appreciate that. Another member said, I feel like we are finally getting into the groove of things. This makes it a lot easier to see my students' abilities and meet their needs. And one said, kids are great this year. This one is from someone at Jefferson. Jefferson Guidance, our RTI specialists and our office staff have put so many systems into place this year that are ensuring we are able to support all of our kids. So many more of my kids are able to receive the academic and social emotional support they need. Another member said, the school year is off to a great start. PBIS is really helping our building get procedures in place, which is helping our students be safe, respectful, and responsible. One said there's a renewed spirit within our new staff. And here, two more. My year is going well because we have gotten a clear vision from the administrator that they named, a detailed plan for how to get there, whether it's behavior or academics. Because I know our expectations and plan, I know how to hold myself and my students accountable. And lastly, our year is going great. I'm loving the work of our instructional coaches. So thank you so much for all you do for the leadership of our district, and our members really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. At this point in our meeting, we take a short pause before we go on with the regular meeting. So if some of you have other plans for this evening, this is your time to exit. We'll take a 5-minute break. Well, thank you all for staying. We're at item 3.06. Do I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. By the way, if you're wondering why we're all doing this, I don't know if you recall, but last year, one of the policies was that since we are also virtual, that people who are watching may not hear that, and they want to see how each member votes rather than a universal aye and nay. So we let you see how we.
I'm sorry for laughing. I don't know, it was funny, but you're like, just in case.
Just in case you wonder why we're just always.
It was kind of funny. I said.
But it's kind of a silly look. Okay, item 4.01 is the consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. Item 6.01, this is our second reading for these policy changes, and these were, if you remember, just verbiage, just 2 or 3 word little change. So if there's any more discussion on that, do I have a motion to approve the policy changes or the policies as presented?
I move to approve the policies as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes. Item 7.01 is our gifted program review.
Showtime, gifted.
So I'm turning that over to our committee, I think.
Thank you, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are very happy to present our gifted program overview for you. Joining us this evening, we have two of our, two members of our gifted team. We have Mrs. Michelle Whitrock, who is our principal at Harris Elementary, but also serves as our gifted coordinator. And then also Mrs. Mandernack, who is one of our SOAR teachers, one of our gifted teachers at Harris Elementary. So Chris, if you could jump to page 3 for me. So our gifted program is designed to address the unique learning needs of our students in our district who are identified as gifted. This program presents a multidisciplinary curriculum that challenges our advanced learners and provides them with experiences that require critical thinking, problem solving, independent study skills, communication, and tenacity. So our program is for elementary and middle levels, and it implements a one-day pull-out method. So that means students are pulled out of their general education classes to be able to participate in the gifted courses. At Harris, our elementary side, it's a full-day program, and then at the intermediate and middle school level, it's 150 minutes per week that they are pulled out for gifted education. And then at the high school level, things start to change because we have college level courses and advanced placement courses. So that's the track that our students typically take at the high school level. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the identification process. A few years ago, the district revamped our process for identifying kids and for selecting kids for gifted. It used to be that in order to qualify, it started with a recommendation or a referral from the classroom teacher or from a parent. And because of the way we were doing that, we saw that our gifted numbers were well below that of the state. So the state average, especially when it came to students in diverse backgrounds, students with diverse socioeconomic statuses, students from different subgroups, we didn't see representation in our gifted program for those students. And so what we went to was a universal screening process using the NNAT3. And so what we do now is that we assess in the spring all kindergarten students and all second grade students in the spring. And then any student that joins us in first, third, or fourth grade, if they join us or transfer from a different district, we screen them as well to make sure that we have all of our elementary students screened. And then we still also allow for teacher and parent recommendation on top of that. And because of that, we have seen our numbers go well above the state average. So I can tell you last year, the state average was about 4.2%, and our numbers were 6.68%. So, and that's because we went to this universal screening method. So in order to qualify, the student is assessed, they're given the screener, they have to score in the 73rd percentile or higher. And then that, if they do, then they are referred for additional testing where they're given the IQ test, which is either the WISC-5 or the Binet. And then we are looking for an IQ of 125 or higher in order to qualify. So with that being said, I'm actually going to turn this over to Mrs. Whitrock, and she's going to actually talk about the various programs at our 3 buildings, Jefferson, Harris, and Hardin.
Okay. So at Harris, we have 1st through 4th grade represented. So Mrs. Kaylee Kozakowski teaches 1st and 2nd grade, and then Mrs. Mandernack does 3rd and 4th grade. Like Dr. Draper said, it is a full-day program, so our students are going from 9 to 2. As he also stated, our numbers have increased. So right now we have 140 students just in the elementary setting for SOAR. So as you can see, we had to get a little unique with our schedule. So on Mondays, you know, we have 2 buildings. Harris has so many students that we actually pull students twice a week, having to separate it a little bit because the numbers are so large, actually. You can go to the next.
And actually, can I just jump in
Yeah.
for 1 second? So one of the things that we had to do last year, or that we did last year, we at the elementary level had a half-day program. And our numbers were consistently high, and listening to the feedback from parents and from students and from our teachers, we decided to go back to a full-day program at the elementary level to be able to allow them to do more hands-on projects and field trips and things like that. So at the elementary level, we were back to a full day.
Thank you. So at Jefferson, they have Quest, and they have 2.5 hours a day of their Quest gifted program. And so they split the day in half, 6th grade in the morning, 5th grade in the afternoon, and they have 75 students. And at Hardin, it's, oh, and I should say Mrs. Leeper teaches at Jefferson. And then Mrs. Asbell is at Hardin, and there's 75 students, do once a week, 2.5 hours, so they do a half-day program there as well. You can go to the next slide. So with our curriculum, it is multidisciplinary, so they're able to touch on critical thinking, problem solving, research. And so for the SOAR overview, the students, 1st and 2nd grade are together. And so we do a cycle of the units that they do. So they do 2 units a year. But because it's 1st and 2nd grade, we cycle through it. And then 3rd and 4th grade as well. So 1st and 2nd, they're focusing on water is everywhere, endangered animals, chemistry, and botany, in which that's what they're working on right now. We're really excited to see what they're growing in their classrooms. And then 3rd and 4th grade, they do space, geology, forensics, and engineering and architect. And right now they're doing their space unit. They've been having some guest speakers come and talk about the upcoming eclipse and all kinds of things. At Quest and Apex, they also do more of a project-based learning and research skills. So 5th grade, they focus on the importance of history. The students create like time capsules of important current events. And they talk about ancient civilizations and create their own civilizations. 6th grade, they're researching more on inventions and innovation. They get to build rockets and explore with robots. And 7th and 8th grade, so 7th grade is looking at luck versus strategy. They create their own board games, explore forensics as well, and analyzing how luck and strategy play a role in both. 8th grade is doing media literacy, and they're identifying bias and how you can look at that on the internet and how different viewpoints. And you can go to the next. So looking ahead, we are looking at strategies to reduce our class sizes because the state recommended class size is approximately 12 kids, and we are above that. So just trying to think of other ways that we can reduce that, but also while promoting it to keep our population diverse in it. And some upcoming events at the end of the month, they're going to be doing their universal screener, and the Astronomical Society of Eastern Missouri has actually been at Harris this week. So it's been a very fun activity that the kids love. They're totally enjoying it. And then we're going to be planning a spring event for SOAR at Harris.
So that actually concludes. The next slide is just some pictures of some of our projects and some of our kids having fun in SOAR. Are there any questions from the board?
Well, I think you kind of answered this one, but when you said our numbers have gotten larger, I was about to say, do you have a waiting list?
No.
So everyone that qualifies is being served.
Yes.
But it's such a large number now that you're looking at strategies to work on. Okay. And the second one is it a special certification for teaching?
Actually, both of our teachers have masters in gifted education. I actually also have a master's in gifted education, so yes.
I did have a question too. Looking through your 8th grade, and this is just a parent concern, and we hear this all the time, it says here, we identify bias and evaluate sources. How do we lean, because there's biases and there's also perception. So how do we identify that? Who's identifying that? I guess, because there's, our country's split like it is now. So how do we determine what's a bias and what's a perception, per se?
I think that's a great question. We veer away from like the political side of it. It's really looking at like the source itself, primary versus secondary sources, looking at period pieces. Like, for example, if we were looking at something from the American Revolution, being able to point out this was taken from the perspective of a patriot, or this was taken from the perspective of someone, a British colonist or something like that. So we try to remove the political piece at that level with 8th grade. But as far as specific, I'd have to really dive more into that curriculum with the teachers who teach it to give you specific, like what the bias is that they're looking for. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because neither one of them teach at that level either, so, yeah.
How many above the recommended number are we? Like, how big of a strategy do we have to have here?
So I will say some of our classes, we have 9 more kids than what on a given day, they probably have 20 to 22 kids. So, I mean, at least we've opened it and, it's a diverse population, but just trying to think of what other ways can we strategize to get those class sizes smaller, because you are doing such intense projects that you want to be able, that you're servicing all of your students efficiently.
So almost double. Got it.
Kinda.
And I will point out that we also serve students who are in private and parochial and students who are homeschooled. So they have time that they come in as well to our gifted program.
And those numbers obviously aren't out of line with our regular classrooms, but obviously in this criteria, it's something we're looking at.
Have we had any translation between gifted programs through 8th grade into high school?
As far as
Do they continue having
to take in
that
the
success and advance and?
Yes, we have not necessarily pulled that data to see, but they typically perform better on the standardized assessments, on ELC tests and things like that, and they do typically go into the advanced courses, but I have not pulled that data to be able to say their success rate.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
I have a side note, if that's all right.
Yes.
These 2 ladies are perfect. Can I just tell you about them real quick? No, I'm serious. They're a perfect example of, you put them in a spot and they'll just shine, right? I'm serious. Our SOAR program, and again, we've had a really good program, but I walk in her classroom now and I get back through there. We're soaring. How about that? I mean, I firmly believe in all of our classrooms, it takes a special person, but there's a certain skill set, obviously they have a master, I mean, it's a skill set to go in and make sure that we're challenging our kiddos and moving forward, so kudos to you. And then our friend Miss Michelle taking over Harris mid-year last year or in the spring, and then I mean, she's done a great job of leading the building. I just wanted to say that about those two ladies, so thank you.
And
for
not
being
only
here. Thank you
taking
for-
over Harris, but also taking over Gifted,
Yeah.
because we did not have anyone, and she said, you know, I have a background in Gifted, I'm certified in Gifted, this is something that I'm passionate about, and so she's done a fantastic job of leading that.
Thank you.
And did I say they were here like at 5 o'clock, but
It was really 5:30.
See,
go home, don't stay,
the-
go home.
this is the perfect gifted thing, you know, telling time. That-
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve the gifted program review?
Yeah, you turn
You turned it
Oh,
off.
I turned it off.
I second.
There we go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That review is approved. We're ready for item 7.02, our homeless program. Julie, I think that's,
Dr. Seifert's going to enjoy this as much as the last one.
I will enjoy it. Thank you, Julie. We appreciate your hard work too, Julie.
Just-
And Kara.
And Kara. So, all right, so homeless program review. Chris, can you bring it up? Thank you, babe. Or not babe, but thank you. I did that another time, didn't I? I think you.
okay.
Whatever. All right, so our homeless program is aligned with the McKinney-Vento Act, which is a federal law requiring us to try and provide educational stability and equal access for students that are experiencing homelessness. We provide services such as transportation, meals, and other assistance as well. So as we kind of go into the next screen, I have our program goals that are listed on the next two screens. They haven't really changed over the last few years, since 2015, 16, when the Homeless Act was kind of revamped. So our goals have been similar. We annually survey all of the students who enroll in our district. It's part of our enrollment process where there's required questions that are asked of every person that has enrolled their student. And then we coordinate with school personnel and community resources. We ensure that there are no barriers to the enrollment process, attendance, including things like immunizations and records from other districts and things like that. So when we have a student that comes to us that is homeless, they are not, we enroll and then we look for the information after. So we have to immediately enroll them. We have a board-approved process for resolution of disagreements related to homeless eligibility. I don't think we've had to use that process in years, honestly. We provide comparable Title I-A services to students that are not necessarily in the Title I-A schools. Chris, if you can go to the next one. We ensure immediate enrollment in the school of choice. And when we say in school of choice, that means it doesn't mean they get to pick their elementary school. It means they either get to stay in the school of origin, or if they've moved and doubled up or moved to a hotel or something like that, they could also choose to enroll in the district in which they're living. So that's their school of choice there. We identify unaccompanied youth who also qualify under McKinney-Vento if they are not if they're not with their parents. Their parents may have custody, but they are not necessarily living with their parent. They may be on their own. We ensure enrollment in the school of origin when we determine that it's in their best interest. We ensure transportation, and we provide equal opportunity for those students. So we'll get a little more into that as we go. For our evaluation piece from the state, Chris, can you move? There you go. Evaluation of effectiveness. DESE actually has a tiered monitoring system. This year, it's going to happen on an annual basis, we're being told, rather than the triannual basis. We provide information through core data to DESE, our board policy, our dispute resolution procedures, and then we have an administrative manual for the education of homeless children and youth put forward by the state that we have to follow. All right. So for our goal number one, this screen is goal number one. So how we ensure identification of students and families is we have those required questions. Once those, if you're filling out an online registration, you're asked questions, we now have centralized enrollment, so our centralized registrar will actually flag, if they're flagged, she will send the information to Kara immediately. Kara will then work with the school, with Chartwells and with transportation to make sure that those students are set up and marked in the system as McKinney-Vento eligible. That information, happens immediately. So if there's question as to whether they truly are homeless, she actually calls the families and has conversations with them, asking about their living arrangements. Could they be asked to leave at any time? You know, are they looking for housing? There's a whole list of questions that she asks families and then kind of helps determine whether families are eligible or not. So once they're determined, they get free and reduced lunch, any transportation. It may include cab transportation, Title I services, or any other family needs. And then we notify transportation and food service. So the next screen kind of shows you over the last 5 years, our homeless population. 21, 22 was a little lower. I think that probably had something to do with COVID, you know, and maybe just the identification and things like that. But we're pretty consistent with our numbers. So for our goal number 2, coordination with school personnel and community resources, all of our staff in the district, and probably you all too, we're trained every year on through vector training on homeless identification and support. And then we have PD for our secretaries and people that need support on PD days and our secretary days where we have our secretary meetings. We partner, you guys know us, we have great partnerships across our district with, you know, We Love St. Charles, Compass, you know, all kinds of resources, but then also we have continuum of care and systems of care meetings and partnerships. We are required, but we post posters in public spaces so that families can know, you know, where to reach out for help. And then we partner with churches, food banks, all of those resources in order to provide things like clothing, food, shoes, you know, Care to Learn. We utilize a lot of funds from Care to Learn because they might have medical needs, things like that. So, all right. So goal number 3 is having no barriers. Again, we have a board policy we follow. We immediately enroll them, even if they're unable to produce all their records. And then we immediately try to get transportation set up from the school of origin, to and from the school of origin or the school of residency. Goal 4 is the liaison, which is myself, fulfilling the McKinney-Vento statute. So Kara Halbert, who's our executive assistant, she does most of the legwork, and we do a lot of communication with each other to kind of help determine what students need and if they meet the definition. We disseminate any required information to parents. We attend the homeless liaison trainings provided by DESE, which they're like doubling and quadrupling. I think this year it's like 10 hours of training. And then we collaborate on any dispute resolution process whenever it's initiated. Goal number 6, we immediate enrollment. Again, our counselors, social workers, as soon as a student's enrolled and they're identified as homeless, we usually also flag to our social workers and counselors that they may need assistance, they may need help, especially in our high schools if we have unaccompanied youth. Getting transportation set up is a huge piece of it. And then goal number 7, unaccompanied youth. So those, again, any students who are unaccompanied, we identify and enroll them the same way. Some of the things we do to help them, on top of how we would help some of our other students, would be counselors helping complete FAFSA, setting up appointments with universities, and preparing, helping prepare their ICAPs. And oftentimes, my office also has to provide letters to universities saying that a student had been homeless, like in their last year or whatever of being in high school, because they are also then eligible for certain like scholarships or, you know, I don't even know if they're scholarships, but free money at universities whenever they get to college. So we're also part of that. Goal number 8, enrollment in school of origin when in the best interest of students. So there's a school selection checklist that the state also puts out to help us determine which school is in the best interest. We are constantly looking at absenteeism. We're looking at if kids miss transportation, if they're coming from St. Louis City and they're constantly late, missing transportation, things like that. We might say, you know, it might be in your best interest to enroll at the school of residency rather than the school of origin because you're missing out in school. So those are decisions that we do end up sometimes having to make with families. Anytime we have to provide cab transportation, that cost is shared between the school of origin and the school of residency. So we split billing. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes billing and information exchange in between districts. All right, goal number 9, transportation again to the school of origin. So that's something that Kara spends a really large part of her day doing. She, in the morning and in the afternoon especially, trying to make sure that we know that our cab companies and our emergency medical transports, and they do a great job, but they're serving tons of districts, tons of parents, people canceling all the time. And so Kara is constantly on the phone trying to make sure that we are not missing a kid. You know, sometimes it's like 2:20 and they're like, this kid needs a ride home at 2:30, and she's helping get on the phone and get help and get kids.
Shout out to Kara Halbert, because she works her tail off.
She does.
And there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, Julia leads it, but Kara does a fantastic job.
And she makes it look so simple. Like
It's
she
a
just
lot of
doesn't
moving
even-
parts.
Yeah, she does a great job. So, and again, we share cost transportation, things like that. So, and goal number 10 is just providing equal opportunity. So again, we want to make sure these students have lunch. They, if there's tutoring services available, they may get tutoring services. You know, sometimes we are able to even provide them if they stay after school for like a sports, because they're participating in sports, we can provide transportation home instead of directly after school. Things like that we're required to do under McKinney-Vento. So, impact, our program really does impact. We've provided quick identification, stability, needed resources, community partners, and coordination with other districts. So we have a really good program going. Title I set aside, Earl's department works with Title I. There's a set aside every year that we use for homeless children. And so we've used things like providing meals, eyeglasses, doctor appointments. We've paid off a lot of fees. You know, if students have a fee at the high school, maybe for not, you know, turning in something, you know, we're able to help kind of ease that pain. We provide more assistance for college prep and application, professional development. So we are able to do a lot of things, but these are also areas, these are areas we can grow. So looking at other ways to provide services with that Title I set aside. We can always provide more signage, spreading the word, providing more assistance for college prep, more professional development, and a needs assessment on efficiency of enrollment and identification process. We have not really had any, over the past, 10 years, it's always a work in progress, but I don't think that things have been going as smoothly as they have for probably the last 2 or 3 years. Like Jason said, Kara's doing a great job. She's up on it. We're able to get students the services they need. When we have to kind of say, hey, it's time for you to enroll at the school of residency because it's just, your kids are missing a lot or it's just not working out, it's always after we've really tried to, make everything work and it just isn't. So it's going well. So that's all I had for the program review for homeless. Did you guys have any questions?
I have a question. A+, do some of these students qualify for A+, and does that move with them when they move from school to school? And are there any, provisions made for these students, regarding attendance or participation in activities, that might be required for A+?
We provide, you can answer about the A+. We provide the transportation piece. If we would not count them absent or tardy if it was our fault because maybe the cab didn't show up, things like that. So if it's on us, that's one thing. But they're eligible just like any other student enrolled in our district for all of the programs, and I would assume A+ is.
Yeah, A+ is a state program, state level program, so the qualifications are the same across districts. So yes, we do honor that. If they transfer in with us now, what other districts do, if they transfer to another district, that's on them, but we will honor that for a student transferring to us.
No other discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the homeless program review?
I move to approve the homeless program review as presented.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The homeless program review passes. Item 8.01 is our annual school election. I think you saw the attachments on that. Is there any discussion? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve the notice for the annual school election?
I move to approve the notice of annual school election as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8.02 is our insurance recommendation. Jeremy?
Thank you, much appreciated. Going to present to you guys the 2024 insurance recommendations. Also have with us tonight from CBiz, our broker consultant that's been with us for a very long time, a decade, I'm assuming, Eric File. So he's going to be here with us to help answer any of the questions that I am not knowledgeable in or nearly intelligent enough to answer. That's why I asked Eric to come along. If you remember, Eric joined us last year as well. So thank you for joining us again this evening. Your attendance is much appreciated. So we've been self-insured since 2013. And we've had the Bridge, which is our employee-sponsored clinic, since 2016. To give you a real quick synopsis of the Bridge and that utilization, we have higher usage now from our district employees than we've ever had since that clinic has been offered. To the point, last year at this time, we had about 90 employees that had taken advantage of all of the care that we offer. This year, we're at 222. So that Bridge, the Bridge is doing its part in providing quality care to our employees at a reduced cost to the district. So I think that's important. We also know that the Bridge has, when I say it's doing its part, we know that it has provided a health path for our employees to get them greater care at a time when they wouldn't even realize they needed it. So I think that needs to be understood for us, and that's something that we don't get to talk about a whole lot, but I thought it's worthy of mentioning as we're discussing the insurance tonight. But beyond that, with the insurance recommendations that we're bringing forward to you, insurance is, as you could imagine, is outrageously expensive. And regardless of activity on our account, it's still expensive. We understand that. One of the things that we're noticing, and when I've shared out a few times with you all, is our trend is not improving at all as far as our utilization is concerned, which that's why we have insurance. So I don't want to give any public opinion that we are discrediting claims or utilization or anything along those lines, because that's certainly not the case. I think if you were to ask Eric has told me, when they look at our utilization, there's not a trend that's showing irresponsible activity by any of our employees or anything along those lines. So I want to state that first and foremost as well. But since 21, and then following in 22, and now in 23, we are underfunding our insurance. And that isn't because it was planned that way. We understood that the insurance costs were going to be rising. What we're attempting to avoid was a situation where we were causing the employee to pay more than what was necessary. And we were hoping that trend would reverse at some point in time. Last year, we took a gamble, and we didn't go with CBIZ's recommendation, if you remember from that. We lowered it slightly. We lowered the cost to the employee slightly. Not lowered, it increased, but we lowered it slightly as in what CBIZ had recommended, hoping that we're going to see a reverse in trend, and then also hoping that we had coordination with a group called Benefits All In, that would help us reverse the trend. That did help, but not to the degree that our utilization has increased from January 23 through August of 2023. So if you'll see on here, our trend now through the first 8 months is at 19.8%. We're over 19.8% on the projections. And that's because of an increased utilization. That could come from anything from oral chemotherapy to GLP-1 to pediatric care. It's just a number of things that have caused this increase, and we continue to see that increase. And as medication is readily available, especially life-saving medication is readily available, I don't see that trend reversing anytime soon. So it's causing us to, and again, we're a month late on this because we've been wanting to make sure that we made the best decision that we could possibly make for not only the district, but more importantly for our employees. That's causing us to increase rates for a second year in a row to our employees, but also to the district. I want to make that very clear that we're both accepting those cost increases. So this year, we are only looking at the medical side and the prescription side. If you remember last year, we entered into some agreements with the IMED division, with the Delta Dental, and then some of the ancillary benefits that are also offered through us that are not renewed until 2026, I believe is what it was. So you can see the rate increases as we have through here. Like it shows you, the plan's currently running at 178% loss ratio. That's not something that we can maintain while still keeping that fund solvent enough for us if we were to make a dramatic or drastic change, a very aggressive change, to be able to pay off that end of the year payment, so we could do something different in the following January. So the biggest impact, if you look on here, will be the premium side of things, the premium plan and the premium core. The difference between the premium full and the premium core, we do not, the employee does not have BJC coverage with the core plan. Same thing for the base, and then you have the base core. We also included the number of members that we have on each one of these plans as well. So that's really the short of it, is that we do have to have these cost increases to our employees. And one of the things that we'll do, certainly that we'll do, is set aside time to go and meet with members in each building to ensure that they are hearing this information, hearing the rationale as to why, but also to go through any of the planned medical changes that we have to look at. So there are some medical design changes that we have to put in place in order to help with this trend that we're seeing. And we're hoping that this obviously reverses the trend, but not to the point that we're becoming flush with cash in the insurance fund. I want to make that clear. That's not the point. This is hoping for us to begin to start breaking even once again. So, any questions so far on this?
Are there any questions, any discussion?
So that 19.8 is what we think gets us back even, right? Is that our projected for this year?
Well, we are actually, with the medical plan changes, we are hoping that it's a 10% cost to the district, and then about another 4% that we can offset towards the employees. Is that correct, Eric?
Yeah, it was about 15% projection, 5% in plan design changes, 10% in.
Okay. So it's not, yeah, so to your point of not becoming flush with cash, we're not making
Right.
any money from this.
Right.
Yeah. And I know that, I mean, I remember last year when we discussed this and did take a little bit of that risk. So I think I wish we could take another risk for it, but I don't think we can continue to digest it. I mean, and we had a group that went through this. I think that makes a lot of sense. How much has I mean, we're gonna talk about district financials in a little bit, but how much of this has hit our kind of end balance percentage? Like, what does this account for in our total kind of piece?
Good question. We've got it in the financial report. At one time, before '21, we were probably operating at 3-point-something million in that insurance fund, which was a healthy amount.
Yeah.
Now we're nearing 1.8, but that's with at this point in time, a $1.2 million loss this 2023 school year. So we were projecting at 22 and 21, like $100 and something thousand losses. I can't remember exact numbers, but it was somewhere in that range. And then again, this year, we were still expecting something close to that. Yeah, and then it's the utilization. I mean, it's really what it is. It comes down to utilization, which is great that our employees are receiving care. The district is able to pay for that care, and we take on all the risk. Well, not all the risk, but we take on the majority of the risk from a financial perspective. So that risk has been kicking us a little bit because of the utilization that our employees have been needing.
So is it more utilization or is it cost of care? Is it?
Eric, hit that red button, or the talking button. The
you go.
person
Yeah,
button. There you go.
thanks. It's called medical inflation, and that might make up, 3 to 5% of it. But if you look at those charts that Jeremy included, from the end of '21, when our claims started skyrocketing really, to the first half of this year, claims actually went up in 3 years, 59%. Now, the best actuaries in the world are not going to project 59% over 3 years, not when you look at an 8 to 10% trend, supposedly. So it's definitely utilization, and the folks are, they're using the plan correctly. It's just, I like to call it a spike, but after 2 years, I don't know if I can call it a spike still. I might have to call it a trend, so we had to bite the bullet and take a little bigger increase this year than historically.
Yeah.
But the alternative, though, there's not, I mean, that's not the solution either, right? I mean, that's what everybody wants to ask, right?
Yeah, we've looked at every option possible. We brought in benefits all in to try to assist employees.
Challenging
and maybe other care through Medicare or something. We looked at, carving out specialty medications, which would be really a disruption of service for employees. And the committee, which is a great committee you have, the benefits committee, they said, nah, the benefits program is part of our overall compensation, and it's appreciated. So I think they're looking at it the right way. The savings was not drastic anyway when you did that, and the disruption was pretty substantial.
Yeah, I'm glad we considered that. Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And even with the increases that we put, we were very strategic of where we kind of placed some of those things, right? In terms of the increases that it's going to come out of the staff members' pockets with some things.
Yeah, well, the premium plan, Jeremy mentioned, our premium plan, the highest set of benefits is running at 178% loss ratio. Our other two plans, the base and the qualified high deductible, about 105 to 108% loss ratio. When you consider the rebates that we get back on pharmacy, those plans are breaking even. It is our premium plan, and that is expected to run high because those who utilize the plan the most are going to go into the strongest plan design, which is still a $500 deductible. It's going up a little bit, and it's still a 100% plan after that deductible is met.
And
So
some districts don't have that.
Oh,
premium
most
plan.
districts don't have a 100% plan
We're holding
anymore.
on to it. We haven't done that yet, but those are some things we're looking at. And Eric mentioned, we've got a fantastic committee that looks at all this. Obviously, we have two members in the, I think two, right? Two, both of you were part of it. And our staff, we have some staff that are really knowledgeable in this area too. So it's been a really good effort with our committee, and Eric's done a great job.
And a great question is, that premium plan, they say, well, just eliminate that premium plan, Well, those individuals who are utilizing that premium plan, they're gotta go somewhere, so.
We have 345 of our members on that plan, as it says in here.
Yeah. No, keep it, just because of the, it's fine.
Well, and one strategic move we made was you have to pay into that plan now, right? We used to have that as an option too. You just get that free. So there's certain strategic things we're doing just to try to stay going in the right direction.
How much more room is there to increase in utilization if that's the main driving cost? And we've seen a now trend. Like, is it another large percentage for utilization to increase where we see more of it?
I would expect it to come down, quite frankly. We've had 6 claims just in this year meet our $200,000 specific stop-loss level. Once they meet that level, the district does not pay anything more toward that claim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those guys can't hurt us anymore. Now, they can hurt us next year again, So, but we're hoping, I'm an optimistic guy. I do hope that some of these are getting the care they need, and after that spike in claims, neoplasms, circulatory issues, and musculoskeletal are by far our top 3 categories. And once that, the bulk of the services are complete and treatment is done, maybe we'll see better days.
Yeah. That makes sense too. You answered another question I had by saying I see the dollars are difference between the premium and the premium core and everything else, and now you already answered why that is. So, okay, good.
Any other discussion on our insurance? Okay, well, do I have a motion to, wait a minute, I forgot what our motion was.
I move to approve the 2024 insurance recommendations as presented.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, item 8.03, this is the first reading. This is a policy revision that's come again from MSBA on House Bill 432. We currently do all of these things, but this is our chance to look at it again. And it's our first reading, so we'll be voting on it in our November meeting.
Yeah, all of our changes that were made into it was from MSB, I think, for what the House bill said, right?
Yes.
We're all doing it to
Yeah,
update
and-
to meet the intent and requirements of the law.
And we're currently doing those things.
And this policy only applies to IEP meetings.
Is that, I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's just,
No?
I don't think,
I think there's a specific section that talks about,
Okay.
Yes.
like idea and
But it's-
things, but I think it is district-wide for
trying to find.
all kinds of
Okay.
activities.
All right.
Because it talks about sporting events.
Okay. I,
Yeah.
okay.
If you, go back into, if you scroll after that first page, it has the full text of it.
Okay.
So when you say we're already doing these things, if we're already doing them, then is this just clarification for how we're doing them to meet the intent?
It's just another MSB, it's our chance if you want to do any revisions or formally approve this again.
Okay, so on this, maybe you guys can clarify, because I'm not overly smart with this stuff, but, so on this first page, we give the reference copy, right? So it comes into, we talk about the House bill, and it says, this policy now authorizes the superintendent or designee to restrict recordings. So we're talking about, I know somebody mentioned IEP meetings. So, and then it goes into your reading to where it says the parent or legal guardian seeking to record must notify the district at least 24 hours prior to that time. So what does this policy change that MSBA is saying? Because it doesn't Missouri state law and the recording law say that as long as one consenting party consents, then they can record a meeting?
I'm looking at and I'm, you know, none of us are legal people, I don't think, but I think I think if the law allows the consent of someone to record, although when it says it can be restricted by the superintendent or his designee, I think that also pointed out if it would infringe on like copyright
Well, I think
information.
it's two things that I think what you're talking about is parents' rights in general, right? I think there's one section about that where it is, as long as it is visible and clear that a recording or audio device is out there, then you can. The section for idea is 24 hours before a meeting so they can set up recording equipment, I think.
But I don't even think with Missouri state law, these have to be out or in the open.
I think it has to be, don't you have to at least declare it? Turn your button on.
And I don't really have any legal knowledge. I just know that, I know what you're talking about, like when you have, like when somebody calls you on the phone or whatever, and they say as long as right? So, but I don't know if that applies to school districts and schools and what's happening in schools. I don't know.
But I wouldn't understand how a school could be above a state law, per se.
I think it's just merely stating the process for how we would designate or be notified that something's being recorded. I think that's just the process for it. I don't think it's above anything that the law, and again, we don't have that law in front of us, right? I mean, you're just.
We don't, but I think it applies mostly,
I think, well,
this is applying mostly to IEPs and 504s.
I think a section of it does.
It's a section.
I think there's a
it's
specific
general, too.
section that does.
I didn't scroll down.
Yeah, it's in there. Well, I think it's more, so if we're in a meeting or come up to something and I have a phone in my pocket and I start recording, and you didn't give consent to record, it's not in a clear manner, is that from our board policy, that shouldn't be done? And I think your point is that a state law as well? Can you ever record somebody without their knowledge of it being out in the open or giving consent? I don't know the answer to that question.
The Missouri, because you look at, we'll pull this up, this is the Missouri one-party consent law. Basically says, you operate in Missouri, you may record a conversation or a phone call if you are a party to the conversation or you get prior consent from the one party in the conversation. So, but in our thing here, it's talking about, you know, we've got to give prior notice of 24 hours to the meeting to occur. And then it goes back to this opening statement here where it says the superintendent can restrict recordings even if the recording is authorized by the policy. So in our state law, it's basically, from my understanding, and maybe we have to look deeper into this, that we are able to, you know, as long as the one party is involved, it wouldn't be an outside party, this would be the two consenting parties that are there. The one could record if they wanted to, especially in IEP meetings is what we're.
What you
I'm really
said
concentrating
in there was about phone calls. I just Google searching it, and the wiretapping and recording phone calls is a one-party consent law, and had the word you use, I don't know. And then there's another law on recording court hearings and public meetings. It looks like they separate it by different, so maybe the schools are different than the phone calls? Isn't the one you just read about phone calls?
It's the Missouri wiretapping law.
Yeah, wiretapping.
That's a different.
I don't know that maybe that's a good point, that maybe certain entities like courtrooms or public schools, we have minor children and we have lots of.
Would this be something that would be beneficial to have Celinda maybe
Well,
break
actually,
down
yeah.
further for us? Just because there's so many questions about,
I think so.
We can contact our.
could we contact
We can
Celinda?
contact our MSBA
Yeah,
rep as
and the
well.
MSBA
Because
participants.
let's clarify, all this is coming from MSBA. This
Right.
is not us writing the law.
Right,
I mean,
and that's what I'm just
it's
trying to
not- it's-
clarify.
And so I can, and it's not, when I'm, to clarify for you all with MSBA, they clearly have legal counsel as well. And I don't necessarily know if they're gonna write a policy that sends out to several school districts that's gonna be over what the law does. I just don't, that typically is not what they do. However, to Heidi's point, and I was thinking the same thing, that's why we have two readings. So if there's questions about it, we can clarify that with we can look at we can reach out to MSBA and get some clarification on what you're saying, Brian, in terms of that wiretap or the phone call. What does that look like with, when we're looking at IDA and 504?
Because the other thing that I kind of hesitated on when you first brought this up is that MSBA sends these policies to us, almost every month, because their lawyers are the ones that are looking out for changes in the laws or court cases that have, brought different changes. So I think we can look into this, either maybe with Kelly or.
It's the first reading.
Right, I was just gonna say
So-
that.
It's being revised because of that House bill.
Yeah, I think a comparison between the changes for stuff, especially around the other ones, right, would be fair. It is a first reading, so we have a month before we meet again to vote on it. I think over that time, if we could have additional information to answer some of those questions and then potentially drive into recommendations for changes that we could vote on next time or in this current format would be of a benefit.
At least Kelly or Susan can give us the clarifications.
Agree. Yep, absolutely.
I will point out at the very bottom, it does have the legal references to state statutes, so you might
Don't
look
worry, I'm
those
gonna
up
nerd
as
out.
well.
I'm gonna nerd out on those, don't worry.
Yeah,
That'd be good, I appreciate that, that'd be good.
sure.
Just to clarify, I know
We'll
especially in
have
those
that.
areas of IEPs and that kind of thing.
When we have our, when it comes up for vote in November, we'll have another clarification, I think. Okay? All right, so there's no action on this one. And we're ready for item 9.01, our district financial report.
All right, so right now, we're looking at about 13 million, just slightly over 13 million in our Fund 1, Fund 2 balance, which is a great number to be at. Shows us if we were to finish just in June 30th with that amount of money in, we'd still be sitting at 15% fund balance. So we have, obviously that's at the end of September, but we have about 6 pay periods to go at the begin, finish out this fiscal year before the new tax money starts rolling in. Really, it comes down to about 5 because it will start rolling in December. So we're sitting at a healthy spot. No concern about paying our payroll or our benefits whatsoever at this point in time. One of the things that's on the month end, Chris, if you were to go down into the next page number 2, I believe, you'll see on the federal revenue something that's a little bit different than what we may have seen before, about 2.4 million coming in on reimbursables from the federal government. That's all due to ESSER funding. So where we'd spent that money out of the fund previously, we're now being reimbursed for that. So that certainly is money well received. Anytime we can get reimbursed for the federal government in a timely manner, we appreciate that. So that's the money you see there. That's the one thing that you'd probably note if you were to note anything in this report is an increase in that federal expenditure. So just wanted to point that out to you. Outside of that, if you are to look at I'll show you the insurance fund page. It's on the blue. It's the one from, if you click out of there, Chris, sorry, the revenues and expenditures report by fund. You'll see right now this year, that self-insurance fund, Fund 15, that's at 1.25. That's the negative right there. That's what it's costing us. Now, I think it's important to tell you all also, because that self-insurance fund runs from January to the end of December. It's different than our actual school budget fiscal year. So we're operating off a 2023 calendar year with that money right there. So that's what that's showing you. Honestly, we break out our self-insurance fund in this district. A lot of districts do not. It's just built into the Fund 1, Fund 2. However, we do break it out. So we'll continue that practice just so you guys can see that amount and what it looks like, how we're trending. So we're going to continue that fund being, unless something miraculous happens, that fund will continue to go negative for September, October, November, and December. And then we hope the 2024 changes gets us turning that a bit more. And it may take a while before we see that because the money has to catch up a little bit with the utilization that we're seeing. So I think that's important to point out to you as well. So just wanted to make that recognition. Again, we're sitting at a very healthy spot. sitting in a very healthy spot with that 13 million sitting in there for payroll and benefits, which is our primary concern, so we don't have to go to the bank and take out a loan, which is some districts operate that way. We do not. We do not. So obviously, a loan on $6 million in this day and age is going to cost us a significant amount of money. So we want to avoid that at all costs. And so outside of that, tax rate certification letter has come back at $3.80, $3.8078 has stayed the same after the auditor took a look at it. So we got that certification letter back that was sent to us about a week ago. So that's good news. We don't have to make any changes there. Lincoln construction is underway. We hope, the goal is for that construction to be finished mid-July. That's the goal. So even if we get it finished before the start of school, that's fantastic. But we want to get that kitchen set up well for the cafeteria workers before school would begin.
I tell you what, though, they're not messing around.
They are not. They're
I literally visited 2 days this week. One day I was there was a kitchen. The second day, there was not a kitchen. Boom, gone. Is that true?
It's
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
The kids are fascinated by it.
grandson, he's just watching that out the window. I don't know if he's learning.
It's unbelievable. You laughing at him?
The demo's always the funnest.
Well, yeah, and you know better than we do, but yeah. And it goes a little bit faster than everything else.
Tearing down's usually.
It's Aspire too, isn't it?
It is Aspire.
Yeah, 'cause they've been doing a couple of things for us lately.
We've had them on three jobs now. So we've been pleased with the outcome and their response to us as a district. So
It's been a good partnership.
it has been. It has been. Hardin Design, that is underway right now. That will be an addition along with a demolition of the northeastern part of that building. So that design is still underway. We hope that goes out for bid in December. We're also looking at a kitchen renovation using food service money that we have approved to spend from the state. But the further we get into that design, the more we figure it's going to cost. So, and significant areas that would, supplies are on big-time shortages. Electrical panels, tremendously difficult to get in stock at this point in time and to get them in very quickly. So we're having to rearrange that quite often. So I'd hate to report out what we're doing or even coming close to doing there because it's changing pretty frequently. And one of the big things we've heard from our community about with Hardin is flooring replacement. So we're looking at replacing the flooring at Hardin. That would be phased work. We wouldn't be able to do that all in one summer. It would have to be phased in. So those are some of the, as we start to finish out that bond expenditure, Hardin's going to take a big chunk of it. And it's a tremendous need for us. We do have RFPs out right now, lawn care at the end of this month. That will come back to us. And then we have submitted an RFP to the state for its state requirement for food services. We hope, depends on how quickly the state responds back to the RFP that was submitted, we hope to bring that to the board in January. That's our goal, so we can be ready to go July 1 without any, we hope, with very little disruption. So, and then Dr. Seifert well knows this. It's when he was pushing it. We were awarded a safety grant of $250,000 from the state. And right now, what we'd like to do to the state with this money from the state is look at some laminate protection over our entry windows, starting with our youngest learners first in those buildings, early childhood on up. So we'll see how far that money can take us, but that's the goal.
I was going to say that money probably won't take us as far as we wanted to, but it's a good start.
It is.
Just kind of interior stuff, or is it looking at exterior things like the round at the back, the stairs between?
Yeah, so that's a problematic area for us.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yes, it would be, there's a triangular piece that comes off of that part of the building that needs to go.
Okay.
For a number of reasons. So that piece is going to be demoed off. We're calling it addition by subtraction. So just even revert to take that off.
It's safe now.
It is, but
it's something we need to
though.
redo.
Yeah. So we would add about 6,000 square feet back there, which would cut off some of that roundabout. And I will meet with the city planning and zoning at the end of this month to get them to agree to eliminate 4 parking spaces. Well, I shouldn't say I would get them to agree, but they would have to give approval.
You'll have a polite conversation.
Yeah, to eliminate 4 parking spaces in that roundabout because we would need that building to push out. Due to the size of that and how far the front foyer is to the back end of that building, they would have to, and the number of kids that would be in that area, they would have to design it with some storm shelter requirements, which increases the cost, but we want to make sure we meet all the code requirements so we can get it approved by the code enforcers. So anyhow, that's what we'd be looking at there. Eliminating that triangular piece and adding on more of a rectangular design on that corner.
Okay. Because I know, yeah, pickup, you gotta drive all the way around.
Yeah,
That's
and we
just-
wouldn't prevent that from happening.
You're
We
gonna
wouldn't be
keep
able to prevent
driving
that.
around there.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
That's not
Is
happening.
the shelter, that's just gonna be, we just put a FEMA one in,
Knoll is getting one built right now.
yeah, but is Hardin gonna have an addition for that too, or is it just gonna be?
It's gonna be, it's FEMA, but it's designed as classroom space.
Got it, okay,
So,
So that whole
art
new
classroom.
Extension will be FEMA.
got it.
It's
Okay.
pretty slick.
Yeah, well, that's what, I know that a lot of our designs have tried to add in FEMA wherever possible, so I was just curious for it.
So we do have, it's a weird setup in that area of the building, so there will still be some, there's gonna be a significant amount of civil work done, groundwork done, and in order to remove retaining wall and a tremendous amount of soil, just so we can get the appropriate footings in place. So, and that's where the civil comes in, and the experts come in and tell us what needs to happen, so. But again, I'll be meeting with the planning and zoning at the end of this month before we can even begin to say this is our final design.
It's always interesting to sit down, obviously with our architects and our firms to look at things, but this project is really interesting because there's not a whole lot of room. We have to take that part off and then add it, and then the FEMA came involved with it, and it's been an interesting project, but it's gonna really, really help that building.
Sorry, I digressed us a little bit, I apologize. I move to approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Our financial report is approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.